You were talking about chemistry before we went to the break, and Tony has said many times chemistry will make a good team average or an average team great. When he talks about chemistry, he's always talked about your ball club and the chemistry that you guys had. How hard is it when you're on a team to have everybody on the same side of the rope?
They're not. We're not always on the same side of the rope, but when you're policing each other, you'll have fights. We had fights in the dugout. We had fights in the locker room. That was part of the chemistry, because then we're going to the field. We're going to the same goal, trying to win that ball game at the end of the day, and it's just holding each other accountable. It's not all hunky dory in a winning season. There's accountability for every one of them, and when somebody steps out of line, we had guys on our club that would be the police. Up in the Superdome, it was a bomb. Impressive. The next pitch, I knew I was going at Canizaro's head with it.
I remember that.
And me and Nathan, I looked at Nathan. I said, "Get ready, it's about to happen." And he nodded at me and said, "Let's do it." And I threw it right behind his head. And it isn't the right way to handle it, no. But just to show you, we were two guys that were on the field that were competing against the opposing team. But when things didn't go our way or we weren't seeing eye to eye, we'd tell each other about it, because we're two people that held each other accountable, much less the rest of the team.
After that, was there a time when guys on the team, would remind you just how far that ball went? Because I remember, the guy, because he hit it a long way and kind of admired it a little bit, which was probably a mistake. And so you flipped the next guy, and then I think he got flipped the next time that he came up. I know that in the clubhouse, people give each other grief about a lot of things. Did you hear about the length of that home run like the rest of the year?
Yeah, we played on slow-mo a lot. And I think Terry had ice on my neck for a couple of days after that for trying to follow it. But that was the most impressive one I've given up. Probably top 5 in my career.
It was a pretty good one.
The Superdome is large, and he made it look very small.
You guys had that great start to the season, and of course there was the win over Tulane and at Teague Moore Field when the guy was throwing a one-hitter going into the 9th inning, and Tommy Clark had the 19,000 foul balls before he hit one off the wall, and then they kick a ground ball and you win the game. And it kind of went south after that. You lost 2 out of 3 at FIU. Then you came back, lost to LSU. Then you got swept in Little Rock. Then you lost 2 in a row in Wichita. And it happened, 31 games into the season, so basically halfway. Did you guys ever look at each other and say, what the hell happened?
We were all kind of looking at each other like, what's going on? And for a while, just kind of, when you get kicked in the teeth a little bit, it takes you a little while to gather yourself. But as long as you do gather yourself, we know the end result of that year. But I think that was very beneficial for us to take a little beating in the teeth and learn how to overcome it in case you do lose a Game 1 in the College World Series, or in case you do lose Game 1 in the Super Regionals, or in this year's case, they lost Game 1 in the Regionals. They got kicked in the teeth, and they handled it extraordinarily well, obviously. We're moving on.
Tony tells the story of you guys got back from Wichita, or either that or because you went right from Little Rock to Wichita. Mm-hmm. You didn't come back home, so you got back to Wichita, and he called for one of those 6 o'clock breakfast club things, and it was like a couple of minutes to 6, and nobody was there. And Tony looked at Wade Simino, and he said, "We've lost these guys." And then all of a sudden, here come all of you. Hadn't they gone to your apartment and left from there? Wasn't it your place they went to at Bayou Shadows?
It was. We all congregated in a fixed spot and took off from there. But basically, we weren't going to drive there. We were going to run there. We knew we were about to get some running in. So I don't know. I guess you could say we're gonna step it up a little bit.
Well, and you did. Now, I want to go to Columbia, and then I want to spend some time talking about the remainder of your pitching career, because you did have a career when this is over with, and one of those guys who actually did get a chance to play in the big leagues. You went. First of all, you took care of business at home, and there were a lot of people, and it was done. Regional sites were announced before the conference tournament, and they announced that Lafayette was going to get a regional site. And I think because of the way the regular season ended with 3 losses to UNO and watching them dogpile on the field, that maybe a regional spot wasn't going to happen. But it was announced that you were going to play at home in a regional. And then you had East Carolina and McNeese State and Marist come in. Turned out to be an interesting regional for a lot of reasons, not the least of which was Marist had a coach by the name of John Sheff, who wound up being an assistant here and is now the head coach at Maryland. And the irony is, if the Cajuns win their Super and Sheff wins theirs, they'll meet each other in the first game at the College World Series. I think there are a lot of people love to see that happen. Anyway, you got through that, and you got through it unscathed. I remember that the regional ended with a line drive to Nelson that he turned into a double play. And now you get to go play the best team on the planet. I mean, these guys were 50-6 during the regular season. They had private charter planes, about 4 of them, that the fans had already paid to fly to Omaha to watch the team play. They were awfully good. What made them so good was they had 3 guys. One of them was a reliever. The other 2 were starters, and they were called the Killer Bees. Kip Bocknight was the one who was their Friday night guy. Didn't pitch at the next level because he wasn't really a major league material, but he was a very good college pitcher. So you go in there, and really, you guys have got a lot working against you here. You're going to go play them at their place, and they are. They're the best team in America, and they were the best team in America by far because nobody else had won 52 games or 55 games going into the Super Regional, and that's what they had. They had 55 wins. They were 55-10.
Right. No, and to be honest with you, when we got paired up with South Carolina, not really following anybody else and paying attention more about what we needed to do here in Lafayette, I didn't know how good they were. So you start getting the scouting reports, and you start seeing, okay, they got a good pitching staff, and this gets highlighted on the Super Regional highlights. ESPN starts highlighting Bocknight and Bauer, and okay, so they got a good arms. Okay, so do we. They got good bats. So do we. We faced number 1 last year at their place. Here we go again. We felt armored, we felt protected, we felt prepared because we had been there and done that. It's like it just felt almost routine to where we can go. Not routine in the sense that it's going to be a cakewalk. We knew that, but we were more mentally prepared than we were the year before that. When you walk into that dance and you don't know quite what to do because it's your first time there.
You and Justin Gabriel at the end of the season, it was more about matchups than it was you're the Friday night guy, you're the Saturday guy, because both of you had been extremely effective. And Tony made the decision to go with Gabriel in Game 1, and Bocknight pitched so well that night, everybody forgets how well Gabriel pitched that night. He took a shutout into the bottom of the 7th inning, a 0-0 game. The only problem was Bocknight was throwing a perfect game at the time.
He went up against the Golden Spikes. I played with Bocknight with Colorado, and just he could hit pinpoint control, like you said, no overpowering, nothing dominant, but pinpoint control. And coming out of college with that kind of command, if he had the velocity, he would be still playing today. I mean, he was that good with his control. And like you said, Gabriel threw an outstanding game. It was just a great pitched game, and we were on the short side of that stick.
Tony has told the story. In fact, he told it last night during his radio show. If there's one story that Tony has told more than any other, it's about the conversation that he had with you and Andy Grove after Game 1, talking about what the plan was in order to get to Omaha. I've heard him. He's never varied in the story. He's always told it the same way. I've never had a chance to hear either you or Andy talk about that meeting with Tony after the game. I want to hear from you how it went down. 3
of us in a room, me and Andy. He's a freshman.
Andy's a freshman.
And here I am having a pretty good year as a junior. And I have the head coach, Coach Robe, sat us down and said, this is the deal. Is the goal to get to Omaha or not? No, obviously that's the goal. Okay, so we can't get there if I throw you today and, okay, we win. And we send Andy out there and it doesn't happen, we're not going to Omaha. I think our best chance with Andy with his changeup and the lefties, we can win today. We have a good chance. We throw you on the third game. Myself, I didn't quite understand what he was saying at first. It's like, so I'm not throwing tomorrow? Is that what we're saying? Do I have a chance of not throwing in the Super Regional? And there is a chance. And I don't think that was easy for Robe to decide either, because he knew it. He had one of his ace guys, and there's a chance that you wouldn't throw one of your Friday night guy the whole Super Regional. That was a very gutsy move on all three of our parts. But, the ultimate goal was to get the home run, not just come up short again. And that was our best chance. And me and Andy kind of looked at each other, and I told him, go get him.
But did you go back to your room and say, Robe, you SOB, I may not get to throw in the – you didn't do that?
No, it was kind of a calm. I can't say I wasn't nervous that I wasn't going to get the throw. But let's just say when Andy took the mound on game 2, I had my spikes right next to me in case we got in trouble. And sure enough.
Single, double. I remember it well.
It didn't take long for my shoes were tied. I tied them up real quick and just kind of pacing. I wanted to get in there. But he settled in, and like Andy did the whole year, and just started getting that changeup and fastball going. And then I started to realize, once he settled in, I said, this plan's going to happen. This is what's going to go down.
He gave up a single, a double to the first 3 hitters. Robe went out and talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a pop-up, a strikeout, and a ground ball, and a fly ball to get out of the inning. He gave up 1 hit the rest of the way. And the Cajuns wound up winning that game 7-1.
So he comes out of the game there, and I remember this because we still joke about it today. He comes out of the game, freshman. He just won a huge game for the university, for the community. Comes up to me now and gives me the ball. Says, your turn.
Nice. As
a freshman to a junior.
Nice.
I said, you little sucker. All right. Yeah, you're right. It is my turn.
Hey, no pressure.
That's right.
He did. He came out and really threw just a masterpiece in that game. So now, not only are you going to get to pitch, but you're getting to pitch game 3. You're getting to pitch in a situation you had been in the year before. Robe has told the story that you had told him, get me there again, and I'll get us to Omaha. And so now you have an opportunity. Now, I'll tell a story that I haven't told publicly too many times. We were back at the hotel after the game, and I happened to be watching, the television where they were doing a story about how the Cajuns had won, and to the young man's credit, he was trying to do a live shot, and live shots are not an easy thing because if you make a mistake, guess what? It's there for everybody to see. And he said, and now the Gamecocks will have to face the Ragin' Cajuns ace, and I still to this day do not remember what he called you, but it wasn't Scott, and it wasn't Dohmann. I still don't remember what you were called that day, and I told you, I said Scott, I said this guy just said whatever it was going to be pitching tomorrow. I said, look, after you beat him, I want you to go up and say, hey, what's my name? And didn't do it quite like that, but that was what the that's what the plan was. All right, so you get up. Did you sleep Saturday night?
Can't remember. Probably not. But I remember on start days, no matter when it was, if I was a freshman in college or in the major leagues, on start days, it was anxiety. Mm-hmm. It's tough to eat. It's tough to do anything. Like any starter will tell you, these guys in the clubs there, it's tough to eat sometimes. You're anxious. You're not nervous. You're just ready to get the result in your hands. You're ready to get strike one. Once I get strike one, I could probably eat a buffet. But until I get that first strike, you just want it to happen. You want to get it going. You want to press fast forward on the day. You don't want to eat breakfast. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to do anything. You just want to fast forward to that time. Get me where I'm comfortable on the mound.
Well, you were comfortable. You got off to a good start. Really, when you get right down to it, you only made one bad pitch the entire time you were out there, and the guy hit a 2-run homer, and you're down 2-1, and But you come back, and you were still in the game at the time. Had runners at second and third. Rick Heidel at the plate. Heidel hit ninth. What were you guys thinking in the dugout? I mean, because really, you guys had not hit. You had scored a run, but you did not have a lot of chances to score in the game. You got runners at second and third, and this might be your last best chance to go ahead and get something done. What are you guys thinking about in the dugout?
Oh, please God. I can't tell you how many times I said that phrase. But once I got chased out the game and Gordy came in, when Rick got that hit, it was just a huge relief. Not that it was over, but it was a huge relief. And then once I come out the game and you're not in control anymore, you kind of you probably feel more like my wife does when I drive around town.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in the driver's seat anymore. You're at the whim, at the mercy of that person, and Gordy in this case, and it's just wow.
Gordon O'Brien had taken over as the late inning guy. Aaron Welburn had been the guy most of the year, developed a little arm problem, and had 8 saves on the year, but by the end of the year, Gordy was the guy, and he was, for folks that don't know, Gordon O'Brien was, his nickname was Grandpa, because he was a 25-year-old, at the time sophomore, I think,
yeah.
and who was from Canada. The only reason the Cajuns probably got him is because Phil Devey was from Canada. And Gordy came in, a big, tall guy, didn't throw all that hard for a guy who was... But he had a nasty yacker now. And if he stayed ahead on the count and could throw that curveball, you weren't going to hit it. That's simple.
He threw it harder than some people's fastballs. I mean, he threw it hard, and it was 12-6. And Gordy was awesome. He's great curveball and great brownies.
Oh,
cookies and brownies.
I had forgot. He liked to bake.
And not in a funny way.
No. He liked to bake.
Yes, he'd bring us brownies at the apartment all the time. But great curveball, great baking skills.
I had forgotten all about that, but you're right. He loved to bake, and he used to talk about his cookies and his brownies. And
so we had the baker on the mound when the school history was on the line, and he was masterful. Came through.
Number 6 hitter in the lineup in the 9th inning, doubles to lead off the 9th. Now they got the tying run in scoring position. They got nobody out. You got to get, and I remember Ray Tanner went to his bench and got a pinch hitter up specifically to bunt, and he couldn't get the bunt down. Runner at second base and nobody out in that situation. Did you guys in the dugout say, okay, here's an omen? They couldn't get the bunt down, so now we're going to win. Did that cross anybody's mind?
I don't think it ever did. Like, that guy's still sitting there. It's a bloop and a blast away from being blown out of proportion, the game, at any point in time. But at that point, every strike, when you that late in the game, felt like an out. When you got a strike, it felt like an out. If it was a ball, it felt like you were going home. It was that intense, and everybody was on the top step and just on their knees, just praying and hoping. And like I said, every strike just felt like such a relief.
I do not remember what the second batter did. I think Gordy struck him out, but I don't remember if that's the case or not. But I do remember the last batter. And Tanner went to his bench 3 players in a row. The 7, 8, and 9 hitters, and he sent up 3 pinch hitters, and all I could think of was don't walk this guy because I don't remember the kid's name at the top of the order, but he was really good.
Was it Janowitz?
I think that's right. At any rate,
yeah.
He was coming up next. I didn't want to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you before we went on the air, they had a ground ball to first base, and Scott Atwood is playing first. Well, neither Scott nor Jess Poche had a reputation of being the most sure-handed first baseman in college baseball. Let's just say it that way. And so the ball's hit to him, and you're hoping it's not hit with like any weird English or anything. But he fields the ball, and it's going through my mind. Okay, now he's got to throw it to Gordy. Gordy's got to get there. And then Atwood raises his hand. And when a first baseman raises his hand to a pitcher, it's, I got this. Was it when he raised his hand that you guys realized you'd won the ball game, or was it when he fielded it?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. When he raises his hands and you know there's no more play involved, all you got to do is move those big size 14s over there in sequence and touch that bag. It was a huge relief. Like you said, there's no overthrow because you know how crazy that can get. Just that simply, you're tied now on an overthrow, on a pitcher running with his clunkers, and that ball's bouncing all around his vision. Raised his hand and the ball game was over, and holy cow. That's all I can say is we're really doing this, and I ain't afraid to say it's tears. It's tears of joy. It's tears of when I saw you after the game, I hugged you, and I was crying on your shoulder, crying on my dad's shoulder. Everybody's crying.
Kyle Siebold was doing the broadcast with me, and of course Kyle played over at USL under Mike Bollinger, and I know that we had a long post-game show because we had to wait for Robe to get out of the interview room, and I wasn't going off the air until we'd had a chance to visit with him. But I do know the first commercial break after the last out was made, it's the only time in 22 years of doing this that I put my head down and I got choked up and emotional and boo-hooed and all of that stuff. I haven't done it since.
Right.
Siebold, and I looked at Siebold, he was doing the same thing. So there were a lot of tears that day, and they weren't all just ball players now.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
We went, Commissioner Waters, Kevin DeRemus was the guy who was working for the conference at the time, and ironically, he had been one of Dan McDonald's assistants in sports information before he went to New Orleans. And DeRemus called Wright Waters and said, they just won it. And Wright Waters said, take everybody in the media out for steak dinner. And so, even though it was time to get in the car and go home, because we had about an 11, 12-hour drive ahead, we went and ate. I'm glad we did. Because when we were ready to go, the bus was just pulling up. And everybody got off the bus. I got a chance to really congratulate folks. You were the last one off the bus. And I remember coming up, and we hugged each other, and you whispered in my ear, what's my name? And so I was 2 hours later getting home than I planned to. That's a memory I'm always going to remember. Because we had talked about it the night before, and it's very seldom that I'm even a little bit of a part of a story because it's just my job to go broadcast a game. But that's a moment I'll never forget was when we hugged each other and you said, "What's my name?" And again, wouldn't quite like that, but it was great.
It's just funny how those things can play out and they come back around. Like I said, it's just. When coincidences meet chance, it's not so much a coincidence anymore. When you're prepared, and like I said, the year before with losing it and then coming back, same center. It's just you can't help but think that's not a coincidence. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's meant to be. That's the reason why we lost the year before. That's why we're here now. These guys this year, going back to them, because this is what this is all about. Is 2014 right now, and the year they're having. This is a special group of guys. I've talked to both coaches and yourself and the community. They can see it, the chemistry, driving off each other. It's fun to watch and fun to see it again. And I know the community's been longing for it in 2014 this season. Just support them every way we can. And real fun to watch.
Raging Cajun pitcher, Colorado Rockies, Tampa Bay Rays, and some Japanese team. Scott Dohmann is our guest on Bird's Eye View. Can talk a little bit about Scott's life after the Raging Cajuns, and we're going to close this by talking a little bit about his advice to this baseball team as they get ready to head into that really important series this weekend. Jay Walker, Scott Dohmann, it's Bird's Eye View on ESPN 1420 and .com.
How's your beard looking? The Raging Cajun Baseball